Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. We have a fabulous guest with us today. Dr. Jen Fry is so many cool things. She's an author. She turns conflict into growth. She is an established speaker. She also is a sports geographer by training. She believes in all things organizational change. She's a coach. She is a Lego fanatic. She is a traveler by passion and loves Mexico City and Cuba specifically. And she has a cat named Pickle. And today she is our guest on Productive Joy. Welcome, Jen.
Thank you, Christy. I'm so excited to be here to chat with you.
Yeah, we are getting ready to have a really good time. And by nature, people will listen for about 30 seconds and go yes or no. So what would you say to them in 30 seconds or so that would get them excited?
That conflict's hard, but it's going to make your life better if you can find a better way to address it.
Really?
Yes, I know. And that's what people like. Whenever I tell them what I do, it's like, okay, Jen, but I promise you, if you can rethink conflict, you are going to have a better life, better mental health, and better relationships.
Well, I believe you completely, and I can't wait to learn how you make that happen because conflict doesn't go away. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It's still there for sure. So you had a journey that brought you here, and I don't know that journey, and our listeners don't know that journey, but can you tell us what took you from little Jen to here where you are helping other people figure out how to resolve conflict in a healthy way? I was going to say healthily, but I don't think that's a word.
I don't think so. You never know right now. You can make your own words. I would say, for me, I've always been a person that uses her voice, but my mom had 5 kids by the time she was 25. She adopted me when she was 41. So she really didn't have an opportunity to better understand conflict. And I think it affected her mentally, and it affected me because she was super conflict avoidant. And if anyone who's grown up with a conflict avoidant parent, your parent will do whatever it takes to make sure the elephant in the room isn't mentioned. And I think of the way it affected me and my relationships, and many of us don't understand how we grew up watching conflict, being involved in conflict has a direct correlation to how we manage it. Either we manage it the same way, or we're going to do it the complete opposite. And for me, when I was younger, I would just want to be heard. When you're young, you just want to explain. And when you have a conflict avoidant parent, you couldn't explain. My mom would be like, look at this, look at that, look at this. And I would get so frustrated, I'd get really angry and yell. And so for me, my growth trajectory, doing this conflict work has changed me in ways I would never have imagined. And I have been a coach. I have worked in higher ed. I've done all these things. But really, I started getting more involved in conflict at about 21 or 22 because I started to realize that we can't have real conversations about inclusion without talking about conflict. We can't talk about women's rights if we don't talk about conflict. We can't talk about disability rights if we don't talk about conflict. We can't talk about advocating for kids if we don't talk about conflict. And so in 2021, 2022, I started to kind of pay attention I was doing a lot of work with race and sport, but I started to pay attention to conflict and saying, people would come up and say, I read the book, I watched the movie, but you're still not talking to your grandparents, right? You did all this reading and watching stuff and took all your notes, but you're not willing to sit at the Thanksgiving table and tell your grandpa, hey, what you're saying is problematic. That part is what we've never been really taught to do. We're taught to engage in conflict in a very theoretical way, not in a practical way. What does it look like? We've just passed Thanksgiving and Christmas. Those are usually really heavy conflict times. It's hard to not only say, Grandpa John, what you're saying is problematic, but you then also have to worry about how your parents are going to respond, how your siblings are going to respond, how your aunt and uncle's going to respond. And people don't think about the totality of the experience when you're navigating conflict, right? You just think it's going to be saying, Grandpa John, what you're saying is problematic, and that's it. No. Then you have your mom who's like, Jen, don't say that. Then you have your dad saying, Grandpa John's only going to be around for a year. We got to respect our elders. Then you have your aunt and uncle saying, we don't talk to our elders like that. You have to respect them. So you have to think about the conflict isn't with one person, it's with 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And how do you navigate that? And so that for me was when I started to really see that the things that conflict was stopping, I said, well, what does it look like to help people better engage in it and go into it with the open mind to say, okay, I know when I'm going to go to Thanksgiving dinner, Grandpa John's going to say something. And I know I have to say something, but I also have to be prepared for my parents. And how am I going to navigate that? And then I have to be prepared for these people. And if it doesn't go in a way that I'm comfortable with, I have to be willing to leave. And am I prepared to leave? And so you have to be willing to think through all those hard, crunchy scenarios when you're thinking about conflict in a holistic way. And so that's kind of how I got there, is looking at my journey of a mom who just didn't have the skills of relationships, that didn't know how to engage in conflict well, to saying, how can I teach people better? And so when I go and speak to places, I say, well, I'm here for you as a coworker, employee, CEO. I'm here to help you be a better friend, a better partner, a better spouse, a better family member, a better sibling. If I can help you do those things, inherently you're going to be better at your job.
Mm.
But we have to understand that everything integrates together.
Yeah, because humans are humans, right? We
Mhm.
human all the time. And if we're not paying attention to how we interact with the humans, that's actually the problem.
Yep.
And I love that you took your circumstances and you figured out what you wanted to learn from them instead of being done unto, right? So you just brushed past the fact that you have quite a few siblings
Yep.
that were adopted by
Mhm.
your mother. So these siblings
Yep.
are quite a bit older than you, yes?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And she picked you up at what age? At what age did she bring you in?
I mean, probably like 2 weeks. So technically,
Wow.
my aunt is actually my mom. So
Okay.
she's technically my grandma, right? And so you see this with a lot of family circumstances where the grandma adopts one of her grandkids and makes her own. So I have called my mom since I was 2 weeks old. So I have been, that for me has always been the normal relationship.
Gotcha. And it's taught you a lot because mom
Yeah.
didn't know how to deal with conflict. I think
Yep.
well, I know I was raised by a mother that didn't know how to deal with conflict either, because in our house, if you disagreed, that was like just the worst possible thing that you could do. And so there was never an argument. But when I met my husband's family and we got married, they argue about everything, absolutely everything. What color is this wall? Well, I would call it seafoam. No, it's blue. No, I mean, just everything is an argument. And yet there's somewhere in the middle lies some balance, right? Because it really wasn't important that we argue about the wall. What's important is that we say the things that matter. And I don't know
Mhm.
that they always do that, right? Like, so it's often which things we choose to conflict on. And the example you gave of Grandpa John makes a lot of sense to me, because I think there's often a person who might say something or do something to address. So I'm sure, because well, first of all, your book has such a great title and I want you to say it, but within it, are there steps that are going to get me from I don't like what he just said to I'm going to address it and we're going to avoid it happening again?
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing about it is so the book's title is called I Said No, How to Have a Backbone and Boundaries Without Being a Jerk. And so a lot of them are just real stories that people haven't thought of how they are actually in the story. And so that's kind of the first level of it, is that understanding the circumstances around you, how you are involved in it, whether you want to be or not. So an example is of a story of a young lady who I know, who was waiting to go to watch a basketball game for her brother was playing. And it was like an hour and 15 minutes away. And her friend was coming to pick her up. And she was like, I want 5:15. I'll be picked up and I can go get snacks and be there to watch the warm up and that type of thing. Well, 5:30 comes, 5:40 comes. I'm like, why haven't you left yet? Like, oh, they're on their way. And I think about how many times on someone being on their way has stopped us from doing the stuff we want to do,
Mm,
because we feel a guilt that, well, Christy has already drove 15 minutes.
yeah.
So I might as well stay and hurt myself rather than say, Christy, I'm sorry. I told you 5:15. I understand you're on the drive. You can meet me there, but I told you what I needed to do. And so it becomes 5:30, 5:40, 5:50. I'm like, girl, you need to leave so you can be there on time. No, no, no. He says he's close. He says he's close. And I said, well, like, what are you gonna do? She's like, well, I'll just be mad and get in the car. And I'm like, but you chose to stay. You have your own vehicle. And so it's stories like that where people don't think of the own agency they have.
Mm,
And instead it's this idea of, well, I have to wait for Christy. No, you don't. Did you give her the time to say, this is the time I'm expecting you to abide by it, or I have to leave? But so many times, especially women, will wait and be just upset and then ruin their whole experience. So
hmm.
you have two options. The first option is, hey, Christy, I told you I need to leave by 5:50. 5:15, it's 5:20. I'm gonna get on the road. I know you'll be upset because you've been driving, but I need to be there at this certain
Mhm.
time. That's the first one. And you go, and yeah, you feel a little guilty, but it
You
is
got
what
there
it
on
is.
time.
You got there on time. You got to get your snacks. I feel a little guilty because Christy drove, but I got there. I got to enjoy it from beginning to end. Or the second one, which is I wait. It's now 5:50. Christy finally gets there. I'm pissed off. I'm in the car, upset. I don't get the snacks. Now, before when we were going to get there was not going to be any parking issues. Now we might have to park at an adjacent lot, right? I'm getting into the place 20, 30 minutes late. If it's a concert, I've missed a few of my favorite songs. If it's a game, I've missed the introductions and all of that stuff. And now I'm seating the entire time. I don't have a good experience. I'm pissed at you. I'm pissed I missed out on this stuff. And then the ride home, I'm just mad and I get out mad. And the whole event is ruined all because I didn't want to stand up and say, I get that you're on the way, but I told you the time and it's important I leave now. And so it's kind of a book of those type of examples and reflective questions to get people to think about their involvement in the situation and what they allow to happen to them under the idea that they don't have control because they don't want to make the decision. It's hard to tell Christy, I'm gone. That's a hard thing to do. But instead it's like, well, I have to stay for Christy. No, you do not. You're a grown up. You have a car. You're choosing to because you don't want to have the hard conversation with Christy and leave and potential that she's mad at you.
Yeah. Well, what I hear there, and that's such a great and relatable example, is you have to choose your hard, right?
100%.
Both of those scenarios are going to bring about something in you that will be difficult.
Yep.
But you get to choose your heart. I love that you use the phrase agency. You know, we have to exercise our agency. And I think, so, you know, this podcast was designed for leaders who want to create more productive joy, who want to have spaces where people can thrive. And I think what gets in the way of that is often those who don't feel safe exercising their agency. And if you have created a space where you can't exercise yours or no one around you feels safe to exercise theirs, then that's on you, right? Like that's your situation, not somebody else's. You can't blame anybody else for not stepping up and learning to say no. First of all, how did you come up with the title? Because the title hits the nail on the head so hard. And so did you just wake up one morning and say, this is it? Or how did that come to be?
So the first title of the book was going to be called Kind Asshole. How to have a backbone, boundaries without being, because that's what I consider myself. I'm not nice, I'm kind, but a little bit comes out. But then, you know, I was in Lovey Jones, who wrote Good Troublemaker, I think. She has this amazing book academy that you can sign up to be in. And if anyone's writing a book, I would highly recommend it because it really changed how I viewed my title and my cover 100%. And so she was like, you aren't, and I appreciate the honesty. She was pretty much like, you're not popular enough to be able to cuss on your title.
Yeah.
I'm like that. And that's a valid point, right? Like Mark Mason has said, I can't think of the title, but million, right? Like you have to have a certain level of popularity. And if I want it to be in schools and stuff like that, I have to be mindful. And so this was actually the next title that came up was like, okay, I can't use this, but this one I feel like is also very applicable to it because of the stuff about it, because so many times we don't want to say no and we're willing to hurt ourselves because we don't want people to be mad at us, which I'm like, I would rather someone be mad at me than me be mad at myself.
Ooh, there are power in those words. So much power because I think we do sacrifice our own needs and our own self much more often than not. We're much less kind to ourselves than we are to other people too, because somehow we think it's okay to just belittle in our minds instead of taking care of ourselves. Well, okay. So you now help people fix this, but you started in a very different space. Now you were coaching people. So that part, I mean, obviously you are still doing, but you have a pretty fun trajectory. So tell us about what you got your doctorate in and then how that has enhanced your I said no concept, taking care of yourself.
Yeah, so that is like, there's different parts. So I was actually a college volleyball coach for 15 years. So not the normal kind of coaching that we see within this realm. And when you coach college, it's a very different experience. Like, as a matter of fact, you know, right now I'm here helping a friend who had surgery. She actually is a former player of mine. And like, that's just how the world works. And so I was able to coach for 15 years and use volleyball as the way for helping women change their life, right? Like, I think that was one of the best things. And in coaching, you tend to be put in charge of groups of young people at a very young age. I was a head volleyball coach at 27. And I'm like, I'm barely able to remember to feed my cat at 45. But like 27, I was responsible for 15 young people between the ages of 18 to 22 going through such developmental years. And so that taught me a lot about what it looks like for conflict and power
Mm.
and how to, because I didn't know anything about conflict. And so I think about how much when you are a young supervisor, a young coach, a young parent, those first few people or groups are really the guinea pigs for you.
Yep.
You are learning through, like, that's where your experience is learning through these people. And I appreciate the grace that they gave me as a 27-year-old head coach to figure it out. But it also taught me the importance of having a culture where conflict can occur, where you can have the conversations, where you can push back, like all of these type of things that people actually say you shouldn't do, right? Like, I think that's the thing, is that when we think about conflict, anytime people are, no, don't do it, versus this is something we have to get through. And so for me, it was such an important thing to be able to say, okay, I've had these experiences of leading people, and as I've grown, in some ways they've grown.
Yeah.
And so I think about, I left coaching in 2015 to become a professional speaker, and I got my PhD in sports geography. And I think, one of the things, and for having your degree, is that when you get a PhD, EDD, whatever it is, it's all about power.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whenever you go, you many times have to do the research of your chair, and it's a power struggle of who's on your committee. And I think for me, of going into that, was I was getting my degree paid for, and I had my own money, so I had a lot more agency and power. Whereas other people, if you're, the professor you're doing research under said, well, you can't speak and do this degree, you have to pick one. Some people would have to make a hard decision. I went to the grad director, I was like, this is what he told me, I need you to fix it.
Yeah.
Because I understood what it means to have my own power and agency. And I think a lot of times when we think about conflict or situations, people don't think about the agency that they have.
Yeah.
And that's the thing I think that's helped me through this kind of trajectory, is the more I'm able to understand myself in these situations, the more I'm able to help others, because I've been there, done that, got the t-shirt. And understanding how much of it is, when you teach certain things theoretical, it can kind of be dangerous, right? Like, I think about when I left coaching, I didn't know what I was going to do. And I went and worked at Duke for a few years. But for me, staying in a job was more painful than just jumping out into the unknown. And when people ask me about my entrepreneurship journey, I would never tell them to do that. People got mortgages, they got family members, they got kids, they got a spouse. I'm never going to tell someone, yeah, I quit and did well, you should quit. No, 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 no. I need you. You are caretaking for your grandparents. I need you to have that bill, have that check. But how do we help you then still try and develop your company on the side? I think that's the biggest thing, is that I understand so much stuff is taught in a theoretical mindset that can be problematic. And how do I, especially like in my book and what I teach when I speak or do workshops, how can I drill it down to the practical things that are much more applicable?
So you said it twice, and I want to camp out on it for a second. It's not about the theoretical, it's about the practical.
No.
And we do get a lot of theoretical advice. Oh, you should do this. But in this circumstance right now, today, that's not going to work. So
No.
what is it that I can do? What do I have agency over to make that happen? So I cannot wait to ask you my favorite question, because I think it all very much ties together. So this podcast is called Productive Joy, because I have discovered a couple things. One, I don't think that work and fun need to be mutually exclusive. As a matter of fact, if they don't go together, then you quit. So how do we make those two things marry? And it's not just about work, right? It's really about life, and how can we have more productive joy? But everybody's definition looks a little different. So right now, Jen, if you had to define productive joy, what would it mean to you?
It means that you're able to do the things with a true smile on your face.
Yep. An actual smile, not the perceived.
Yeah, because an example I would think about was when I was working at Duke, and I would be doing something like, and this was, I worked there 2000, let me see here, 2016 to 2019. And one of the things that we would have to do that people didn't understand is that we would have to put each degree into like the little envelope thing. Like, we had to go through and do all of those. And it was like this whole, like, it's very monotonous, very repetitive, but like, we would all have a smile on our face. We're joking. We looked forward to it, right? They'd have lunch for us. And I think sometimes like I see with a lot of the 30-year-olds and below that everything's about passion. I don't know
Mhm.
if you see it. I have to have a passion for this. How do I have a passion? Sometimes you're not going to have a passion for it.
No.
Sometimes the passion is the check that you get to go do the stuff that you want.
Yes.
Sometimes the stuff that's productive joy is not this big thing, but it's you're sitting there and you have space to laugh and joke with your friends while you're doing something. And so that's what it makes me think about is you're going through hard stuff, but you're able to have somewhat of a camaraderie or this building of experience together. That's what I looked at as productive joy.
It's a beautiful definition. And I just recently had the opportunity to do my first TEDx. And when I did, I know it
Yay!
was so
Congrats.
exciting, and it's out now and you can watch it. It's very, very exciting. And one of the gentlemen that spoke that day, and there were 18 of us, one of the gentlemen that spoke that day talked about there's no such thing as a job that sucks.
Mhm.
Exactly what you just said. It's all about our attitude towards that job. He was a corrections officer as his first job. And, you could think about the fact that that job
Yeah.
sucks. And yet he chose not to see it that way. Chose to see it as an opportunity to pour into the lives of those who hadn't had somebody pour into them, and did it with a smile on his face. And I think that's so key in all things, right? Creating productive joy means that you're looking for the good in the space that you're in. And I really very much appreciate that definition. So, how do you help people create it? How do you help people create productive joy?
The way I help people create productive joy is helping them understand conflict because something that stops productive joy is conflict. If you don't feel like you can say the thing, you can do the thing, you are always keeping the peace, you're not going to have productive joy. Right. I think about if we're sitting there, stuffing the diplomas, as we would call it. If we're sitting there stuffing it and I can't make a suggestion or I can't talk to people, right? Like the difference would be I can sit there and talk, or they're like, you can't talk to anyone. Well, that's a big difference. And so for me, I think about how do I help people get better at conflict so that they can have joy, they can have productive joy, they can be healthier because conflict is a mental health imperative. And
Mhm.
many people don't think of it like that. But think about the last time you had a big conflict and how much you thought about it. You're in your shower, and if they say this, I'm going to say this, and you're telling all your friends, and you're right, like anything that you see on social media or they text you, you put a different inference and lens on it, and it affects everything. And so if I can help people better understand conflict, I think I can help them have better productive joy.
Yeah.
And even if it means, like I was talking to this one young lady who was wanting to know about like how does she find the passion of the job, and I was like, well, tell me about your job right now. She was like, well, my boss is great, gives me a lot of freedom. I get to go, I have a lot of vacation. I get to throw my ideas in the hat. I get all this stuff. And I'm like, so you're going to leave something that's really, really good to find your passion, and you won't even know if it will work. So you might leave this great opportunity and you're jumping to go find your passion now. Yeah, you love doing it, but your manager micromanages you. You hate the hours. You don't get say, right? Like all of that, is that worth the
Mhm.
passion? Or like you said, do you find the good? So I told her, I was like, figure out what stuff you can get into on campus. What committees can you get onto? What relationships can you build? That's productive joy versus being like, I have to find my passion. Baby, no, you don't. Because you find it and everything else is crappy. And is it worth it?
Yeah.
And so I just tried to explain to them that sometimes a good working environment, you might not be like, I am so passionate about it. But also if you don't know what you're passionate about, how do you know? And instead of like, let me use the job I'm in to maybe figure out what area that is. Because I was like, I'd hate for you to leave a job that is really good in 80% for you to go take a job you think you're passionate about and you hate everything else about it. I would hate that for you.
Right. Because that 80/20 would flip. And now you
100%.
have 20% passion and 80% crap.
And the 80% crap is going to affect you in all the ways. The not having passion, yeah, you don't feel like fulfilled, but like I think about when I worked at Duke, was it what I was doing, what I was passionate about? No, but there's so many other things
Yeah.
that helped me out.
Well, I think what my biggest takeaway from you so far is that you, Jen, have figured out that circumstances aren't something that you have the ability to change. What you have
Mhm.
the ability to do is influence them, influence how you react to them, influence how you interact with them, and create instead that approach that is tolerable for you, right? To
Yep.
exercise that agency. I think every single leader listening right now, every single human listening right now needed a little bit of that.
Yeah.
The reminder that, I say it this way, our sphere of control is this teeny tiny hole right
Yep.
here, but our sphere of influence is as big as we can stretch. We forget that. We flip that quite often. And what you're helping people do is not flip it, but instead pay attention to it and learn how to navigate it. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And I could talk to you for days, but I know you have to go take care of your friend and we have other things we have to do. So would
Yeah.
you be willing to answer some rapid fire questions for me?
Let's hit it. I'm excited.
All right. Question number 1. What is your definition of fun?
Anything my friends are involved with.
That means you've
It
chosen.
literally, it does not matter what it could be. As long as my friends are involved, that's fun for me.
That's beautiful. How do you know that you're showing up as your authentic self?
When I'm cussing.
Because you can be 100% you. I love that. And I'm going to guess your
Yeah.
coaching might have honed that skill just a little bit. Yes?
You learn how to cuss under your breath when you're a coach or behind your clipboard.
Exactly. Oh, that's funny. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
Oh man. I think that is probably the hardest thing that people try and navigate because like you said, even though you have this much control of circumstances, that's all you sit and think about. And the way I try and channel my best version of myself on those days is still making sure I treat people well. Like it's easy when you're having a shitty day to be like, to treat this person bad, to get mad, to have a quick mouth, right? Like all of those. And so I try and be thoughtful of like, I'm feeling this way. I don't want to take it out on other people.
Oof. That's a powerful one that we all need to hold on to. Just when we're not at our best, we need to treat others really well. Okay.
Oh, and also, I think it also is you have the self-reflection to know that you are doing that. And I think that's where some people don't. It's like you have the self-reflection to say, okay, I'm getting a little snippy. I'm, let me like understand that, or let me talk to the person later or whatever it is, but having that self-reflection.
Yeah, that awareness is so powerful. All right, this is not going to be an easy question because you
Okay, I'm ready.
said some really brilliant things. And by nature, our brains can only hold on to one 3-minute period. So if you had to give us one major idea that you want people to hold on to, what would it be?
Conflict is hard and messy, but you still have to do it. Like we can't stop doing it because it's ugly. And I think a lot of people do. It's one of those things that it's simple but not easy. It's simple, but it's telling your grandpa what he says problematic is one of the hardest things ever. And it doesn't mean that we shy away from the hard things.
No. Mic drop. Well done, Jen. This was such a pleasure. And I know, listeners, that you just got a masterclass in all things resolving conflict by addressing conflict. So if you didn't catch that, go back and listen again because you clearly missed it. She said it very, very clearly.
Yeah.
And although she said it's not easy, it is simple. So go get her book, go grab all of the things. Yes. How else might people find you, Jen?
I'm on Jen Fry Talks on every social media platform. So just go look up Jen Fry Talks, my website, social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything, Jen Fry Talks.
Jen Fry Talks. Okay, so Jen Fry Talks, go grab it because this is exactly what we all need going into 2026 to make sure that we're taking ownership over this year. So today and every day, I need you to grab a nugget or two of wisdom that you're going to use, and I need you to figure out a way to turn fun into action.